Why does hiring for your construction business feel like an emergency every time? Why does it seem like you only start looking for help when somebody quits, when your team is maxed out, or when you finally hit the breaking point and realize you can't keep doing everything yourself? And what if the real issue is that there aren't good people out there? What if the real issue is something else? And what if the bigger problem, the underlying problem, is the way you're thinking about hiring in the first place? You're listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd Dawalt. I'm your host, and we're all about systematizing your construction business to maximize freedom, impact, and wealth. My team and I here at Construction Leading Edge have helped hundreds of construction business owners put systems in place so they can eliminate chaos, grow their profits, build stronger teams, and get their lives back. In this episode, I'm talking with Justin Landry. He's the founder of JL Talent Solutions. Justin has spent the last decade helping high-end construction companies across North America make better hires, use data instead of gut feel, and build performance systems so the right people are not just hired, but they're set up to succeed. I've known Justin for several years. A lot of our clients have used him. I've worked with him personally for my business. And we're going to talk about a trap that keeps construction business owners hiring out of desperation, one shift that you can make to help you stop hiring only when something breaks, and why the person you think you need may not actually be the person who solves the real problem. We'll also get into culture fit, assessments, scorecards, and a more systematic way to identify whether somebody really is the right fit for the role, the team, and the future of your business. And be sure to stick around because Justin shares a 5-step hiring framework you can use to start building a stronger pipeline of candidates, to filter out candidates more effectively, and make better hiring decisions without relying on instinct, hope, gut, or a good handshake. So if you've ever thought, I need better people, but I don't have time to find them, or I can't afford to hire right now, or all the good people are taken, this conversation with Justin Landry may challenge the way you're looking at hiring, team growth, and your own time as the owner. So before we get into that, let me ask you this. Are you stuck in day-to-day operations of your construction business? Do you feel like you're wearing too many hats, spending too much time on job sites, and that your days are consumed with low-level activities, low-rent activities, and firefighting? If so, I want to invite you to go watch my free masterclass, How to Escape from Day-to-Day Operations, how to find the escape hatch from day-to-day operations. You can watch that for free by clicking the link in the show notes, or just go to constructionleadingedge.com/escape. ESCAPE. Now, let's get to my conversation with Justin Landry.
Justin, welcome to the podcast. Give us a brief intro of the name of your company, the problems you help construction business owners solve, and it's probably a pretty good place to start this episode.
My name is Justin Landry, and I'm the owner and founder of JL Talent Solutions. For the last 10 years, I've been in the HR, recruiting, and performance management space with high-end construction companies across North America. We help companies make data-driven hires throughout all segments of their organizations. After those hires have been placed, working on performance management, key performance indicators, and other systemic tools to make sure that our expectations of our employees are commensurate with those from the beginning of their signing.
Gotcha. And we have some mutual clients that we've worked with. We'll talk about some of their success stories before we're done today to hear what sort of results people have gotten. I think we've known each other for several years now. We've been referring clients back and forth to each other for quite some time. I like the way you operate. It's very systematic, which not surprisingly is what we're all about here. So let's jump into it. We want to give these folks listening some really practical advice. Let's start with this. A lot of people feel stuck and they have trouble with hiring. And there's a lot of talk about, well, you can't find good people out there. There's a skilled labor shortage and all the good people are gone, all of that sort of stuff. You call it the reactive hiring trap. What is that? And why does it keep construction business owners stuck? Can you explain that?
Absolutely, Todd. Over the last 10 years, one of the things I've seen most resoundingly is that construction owners look to make a hire only when absolutely necessary. Only when the project manager says, I quit, or the office manager says, hey, I'm pregnant with my next baby and I'm not going to be able to make it in next week, or when the subcontractor says, you know what, I disagree and I'm no longer involved. In these places of desperation, so often we find contractors aiming to make a hire and then getting stuck in this desperation trap of thinking, I need to hire for skills rather than for fit. And that by hiring for skills rather than fit, solving a short-term problem, but not really solving the long-term problem. So again and again, I've seen contractors solve the skill problem, but not fit the people problem, which really talks about culture.
Let's talk about culture. One of the questions people have might be, how do I find the person who's a good fit for our culture? And which begs the question, what is our culture? How do we even know that? So how would you advise somebody, like one or two practical tips you would give them to figure out how to hire for a culture fit?
First and foremost, so many professionals out there are going for a gut fit. And we're talking about what are the personality traits, what are the cultural traits that are appropriate for me. What I would encourage that we do is think like the U.S. Department of Labor and use KSAO. What are the knowledge, skills, ability, and other attributes that are the right things for the right position? Rather than our gut fit, let's bring in some of that kind of more systemic brain fit. And then we can harmonize the brain and the gut fit together to talk about a concept called right fit. So those would be the concepts that I would think about when we move from this idea of gut fit to right fit. And the tools that we use internally are assessment tools to do so.
Yeah. I think any of us who have hired more than a few people would say, yeah, we've probably made a hire based on gut feel. We met the person, got a good handshake. I like the eye contact. They seem like a go-getter, seem like a good fit. I've certainly made at least a few gut hiring fits that didn't work out at all. It turns out I was not right. This is one of the things that we advise our clients on is to, before you hire somebody, take a strategic approach and start with, what do you want the organization to look like? Let's start with the design of the organization. How do you divide up responsibilities between sales, pre-construction operations, and then what will this role, what skills, the knowledge, abilities does this role require? And that's a great place to start. So you don't end up where I had a conversation with a young lady years ago. We were doing a deep dive with a custom home builder. This young lady had been with this company for several months, and she said these exact words: I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. 1 week it was marketing, 1 week it was helping with permits, 1 week it was selections. And that is not a good place to be. So a lot of people would say, all right, that sounds great. I get the fact that knee-jerk reactive hiring is not good, but why would I recruit when I don't have any vacancies? You know, if all the seats are filled, why would I be recruiting? What would you say to those people who are asking that question?
Well, when we look at the Fortune 500, but when we look at any other sustainable business, recruitment is an ongoing function within those ecologies to assure that the right individuals not only are in the right seat, but that the right challenges and the right individuals are flowing through the work ecology. I think there's a belief that once we get into a position, we're going to stay in that position. And we've seen generationally in our lifetimes that change. So if we look at that tone of the times in and of itself, it's clear to say there's a meaningful adjustment there on how these things fit. So how do we engage employees and how do we work with employees is going to evolve. And with that evolution, we've had to really consider those things. So from a human resources perspective, we're thinking about how do I inspire and engage team members in the level that they're at? And how do I give them the skills and challenges to grow within the organization? I hear resoundingly from owners, I am doing so much of the business, I don't think they know what I'm doing. I don't think they understand this part of the business. I can't let go of this. So for business owners that are saying, hey, I already hired so-and-so and we're done, I would say, well, think about all the other things that you're doing. Think about all the other things you could be doing for your business. And using that EOS, entrepreneurial operating system concept of delegate and elevate, let's really extrapolate where the company is and where the company could be. I've sat with a few of our own mutual clients before, Todd, and said, hey, I think you're hiring this project manager to solve a problem that you think exists. I think this is the problem, and this superintendent might solve that problem. To have clients come back to me and say, Justin, I haven't thought about that way. Because we had lost a project manager, I thought I needed a project manager. So sometimes I think it's repetition, and we just get kind of caught in a loop. And that's why I think people think, well, I lost the project manager, I need a project manager. And if we were just constantly looking, we could kind of more assume to the tone of the times.
My father-in-law retired 8 or 10 years ago. He started with his company 50 some years ago, and he worked for the same company for 40 years, never left. And that was the gold standard. That was the expectation 50 years ago. It's very different now. And if we're still thinking people will stay in an organization their entire career, probably ain't going to happen. I'm also reminded of a conversation I had with a college basketball coach. This coach started recruiting my son when he was a sophomore in high school. And I chatted with him about his approach to recruiting, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, it's my job to know every good basketball player within a 100-mile radius of this school. I thought, if a college basketball coach took the same approach to recruiting that most construction business owners did, when somebody graduated and left the team, that's when they would go look for a replacement. They would only be thinking about one-for-one replacements. You also bring up a good point. So many times we think of recruiting just to replace people, but isn't the idea to grow your people and grow them into the next level? So it's not only recruiting to replace people who leave your organization, but for people who grow up to the next level. So you could constantly be feeding the entry level of your business. Yeah, it's just a completely different mindset from that. All right, somebody quits. I need to go find a body with a pulse to replace them and do exactly what they were doing. Yeah, completely different approach.
You know, this idea of delegate and elevate, Todd, I think it really stands out. And one of the things that our systematic approaches, I think, aligns on is buying back owners' time. So many times when I'm working with a client, that's really where my focus lies. Hey, we hired this project manager. Now we can take on more work. What's on your plate, owner? What can we do to buy back your time? And I use a silly little joke sometimes and say, hey, when we finish this campaign with each other, I want you to come out here to Hawaii. I live in Hawaii, and let's have some Mai Tais together. Sometimes I think it's important for us in the industry to understand that, to smell the roses, to see the grass, to enjoy the hard work that we've accomplished. I mean, we all deserve a pat on the back, listeners especially. This is a hard industry. So, that counts too.
There are people probably listening thinking, I can't afford to hire somebody. And I would tell you, if somebody's doing work on your team, or if you're doing work in your business, you can have somebody do it for less than $1,000 an hour, you're losing money because your time as a construction business owner is worth $1,000 an hour. If you spent your time on your highest and best use, selling, growing your team, networking, business development, you can invest 10 hours in one of those activities and generate $100,000 of profit. And so your time is worth $1,000. You could pay somebody $50 an hour or $100 an hour for. If you're doing those things, you're getting hit with that opportunity cost. So that's a different way of thinking. Most people think, well, I'll just do it myself. It's cheaper to do it myself. No. You can't afford to be doing things that you could delegate to somebody else. You should be spending your time on those things that only you can do. Because as a business owner, your time is one of your company's most valuable resources. Your team is depending on you to maximize your time. And they're depending on you to be strategic and do the things that only you can do. So that's a different lens that I believe if you look at these entrepreneurs who grow large organizations and they scale, that's the way they think about growing their team. That's the way they think about their time. It's how can I delegate as much as possible? How can I grow my people? How can I grow this team to be able to support more customers and to be able to even support more employees and give them a good place to work? Here's the question. Why do too many construction business owners treat hiring like an emergency? What's behind this?
I think if it came down to the psychological concept of kind of like a scarcity or an abundance mindset, I think there's some role to play that there's a kind of a scarcity mindset. Todd, I think you spoke a lot to that. Hey, I'm going to carry it and shoulder it myself, and I'm going to be Atlas, and I'll carry the world. I think a lot of that exists in the industry. And if we're honest, I mean, there's a lot of strong, hardworking, badass guys in the construction industry who are prideful and don't want to say no. A lot of those are reasons that I see with the clients that I interface with. But the biggest and most heavy one is I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let my friends down. I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let the guys down. I don't want to let the team down. So the owner takes on more and more and more. And when I go into my initial visit call with an initial client and ask them, can you share with me the list of all the things that you're doing? Several times I'm sitting with an owner that has 2 positions. And I'm thinking, how do you have time to do any of the things that you started to do? You started in this industry because it was joyful for you. We get to do things, you and I, Todd, that we're joyful about every single day. And that's a gift. It's a gift from God. That's one of the things I'm the most proud of about working in the construction industry, is seeing people who chose positions, chose the life they chose, because it does come from their heart. And then for some reason or another along the way, some story was populated of why that's no longer true. And the work that we've done over the last 7-8 years working together to repair that story, to create the systems and then empower the people, that's what I see as the first thing, is this abundance and scarcity mindset and overcoming it. The second part of it is a definitely more of a fiduciary mindset. It's not profitable to hire people. People cost me money. In fact, the more people I have, the more expensive it's going to be. I'm sure you and I have found, I can speak for myself, I've found quite the inverse. As my team has grown, I have more profit. As my team has grown, I have more time for myself. It's exciting to have an 8-hour day again. Oh my gosh, to have an 8-hour work day again, guys. What could that feel like? To have a team member that says, thank you so much. Like, these are abundant beliefs that don't really exist. So I understand and I'm compassionate to owners that are working 14 hours and have this scarcity mindset. But Todd, that really is it. It's this psychological concept.
Quick break for something that might hit close to home. If you are a custom home builder, remodeler, or a commercial GC and your business basically lives in your head, this is for you. I was on a business evaluation call recently with a builder doing multi-million-dollar custom homes and big renovations. On paper, from the outside, everything looks great. But in reality, he was working 60 to 70 hours a week. And when we looked at it, he admitted that he was spending about 75% of his time in reactive mode, putting out fires on low rent activities. When we talked about his handoff from the office to the field, he graded it at like a C- or a D+. You see, they were starting jobs before the scope was nailed down, subs weren't clearly lined up, material selections were half-baked, and there was a lot of we'll figure it out as we go. Classic just enough to start trap stuff. And that led to costly mistakes, delays, and there were a couple of near disasters on high-profile projects that he absolutely could not afford to screw up. And then when we went through the evaluation, we found hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in hidden profit between the rework, giveaways, lost productivity, schedule delays, and then the opportunity cost. And the common thread was a weak pre-construction and handoff process. There was a pre-construction deficiency. And that call is what I would like to invite you to today. It's a free, about 45-minute business evaluation call with my team. We'll walk through a simple diagnostic to grade your office to field handoff. We'll quantify the hidden profit that may be in your business. And then we'll map out what a real operating system for your business would look like so it can run without everything going through you. Then if it looks like we can help, we'll schedule a second call to go through the implementation program that fits your specific situation. If it's not a fit, you'll still walk away with clarity and a concrete plan. But here's the deal. This is not for everybody. It's for companies doing over $1 million a year in revenue. And we only have capacity to take on a handful of clients each month. So if you want your business to look real different 12 months from now is the time to take action. To book your business evaluation call, you can click the link in the show notes or simply go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, and book your business evaluation call.
If you're listening thinking scarcity, I think maybe I have scarcity brain. You need to read this book, Scarcity Brain by Michael Easter. It's one of the books that I read, and I remember looking up thinking, this is what's wrong with my brain. This is what's wrong with me. It's scarcity brain. The tricky thing about scarcity brain and the things that keep people stuck is they sound so logical, and they sound like they are prudent, responsible things to do. Like, you can't afford to hire someone. Another one is, what if I hire this person and it doesn't work out? I'm going to be letting my team down. What if I hire this person and then I run out of work and they come to work for me with their young family and then I have to lay them off? All these what ifs. And it seems responsible to just do nothing, but that's what keeps people stuck. So many people, I've done at live events, we've talked about what's the problem with finding skilled people? And before long, we came up with an entire list of fears. It has nothing to do with people. It's all of these fears. That's the real problem. So if you're thinking the problem's out there, you think you might have scarcity brain, go read this book. It's fascinating book, very enlightening. We could spend an entire episode talking about that mental malware, the scripts that run, but I have an episode called Mental Malware. You may want to, if you guys are listening, you may want to go check that one out. So let's get practical. You talked about the hire right framework, and you've got a step-by-step process that people can follow. Walk us through your hire right framework.
Absolutely. So after meeting with a client, they've got a need. The first thing I'm going to do is step one in the hire right framework is the magnet. We need to get applicants into our pipeline. The magnet means we're going to make sure that an open seat never starts from zero. We're going to have a warm pipeline of candidates coming in. There's more than one way to attract candidates out there right now. There's organic traffic and there's active traffic. Organic traffic is when I post a job ad and people come in. Active traffic is when I sponsor or pay for a job ad. So there's more than one way to post and get traffic in. In addition to that, we do things like referrals. The goal is to make sure that we have a strong magnet out there saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do before I need the talent. There's a marketing concept being top of mind. How do we make sure we're top of mind in our market and make sure that that magnet is attracting the top talent in our market? When I'm working with clients, I have a few tools on the back end. I use a little bit of AI, and I'm very heavy on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn to make sure that our magnets on those portals are strong. We would strongly encourage looking at NAHB and NARI portals as well and feeding them into your HR ecology. Having this magnet constantly feeding you good candidates creates you as a position of renown and as an employer, a top 10, top of mind employer. Those places give you an abundance to think from and go, wow, I've got a lot of candidates. This gives me a really ability to think about what's next. Once we have a magnet, we can really start to, be a little bit more, abundant, if you will.
Okay. When you say a magnet, what is that? Is this a job posting or is it something else?
I'm glad that you asked, Todd. The reason that we use the term magnet is, yes, while we do job postings In this market, as I'm sure many listeners are finding, it's hard to find great people out there. So not just a job listing, but posts on social media, putting things onto your webpage, linking to your career page, linking to other portals on the internet. All of those things are tools that we would do in our magnet stage. And what I've found is in the last 10 years, where 10 years ago I could throw an ad onto Indeed and people would show up, and now that's not such the case, particularly not in our industry. The magnet requires a multi-timbral approach. So yes, there are job ads involved, and yes, there is some marketing on, I would say if you're going to spend one marketing source anywhere, I'd spend it on LinkedIn. It is definitely the best single source for attraction.
Okay. So the goal is to be top of mind, maybe for people who aren't even looking for a job, because most of your best candidates are currently employed. So if you put a job posting out, your best candidates won't even see it because they're not looking for a job. So yeah, it makes complete sense. Okay. So step one is the magnet. Then what's the next step?
Step two would be the filter. The filter is a screening system. In my team, what we use a psychometric assessment from a company called Preview. Preview measures your IQ, your EQ, and your AQ. IQ is your intelligence, EQ is your emotional intelligence, and AQ is what motivates you, or action quotient. Once we have that assessment data, a team member from my team will reach out to an applicant and we'll ask them, hey, why are you looking for a new job? Why are you leaving your old job? What are you looking for money? What are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? And making sure that we can sort out those key qualifiers that an individual might or might not have would be the second stage in any recruitment process. Particularly if the magnet is working well, we are going to expect a large volume of applicants. And in a fairly efficient sort of way, we need to identify right fit, wrong fit. So the filter is designed to both on an IQ and EQ perspective and on a do you have the right job fit and attitudinal perspective, filter out those individuals. And I have a guide for applicants and for clients that are working through our system, a guide that they would check off to complete.
I'll just go ahead and share the link. You're going to provide a scorecard and a checklist. And if you're interested in that, you're like, I need to get this going right now, there's a link in the show notes where you can go get your hands on that. Interesting. Okay. So you've got the magnet, the filter. What's next?
Third part, now we get into the blueprint. The blueprint is where we're going to use the assessment data. We're going to maybe even ask them to come in and do a deeper, more visceral interview. This is where we're going to sit down and have them go through Kolbe. And we're not going to just look at them. We're going to actually ask for some sort of practicum. If they're a lead carpenter or a project manager, I might ask them out to a job site and say, hey, can we talk about kind of what can you do on a job site? I've done with several project managers where I leave them with a set of blueprints and say, hey, look at this for half an hour. And when we come back, we'd like to talk about what a 2-week look ahead might be. So in the blueprint perspective, we're now taking the assessment data that we've collated and looking at all of the data on this individual and saying, hey, is this linear and does this fit? Do we have a good fit here or not? Do they fit the blueprint of the position or not? So we call it the blueprint because we're using assessment data and practical data to line down and say, does this person really, really fit?
You mentioned the Kolbe, which is Kolbe. For those who aren't familiar with that, can you give a brief overview of what the Kolbe is? I think there may be even a couple of flavors of that, but can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. For anybody that is familiar with Gino Wickman's Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, Kolbe, Kolbe, is the partnered assessment to EOS. Kathy Kolbe and Gino Wickman were long fast friends. And as a Kolbe-trained consultant man, did we get some fun stories. Call me anytime if you want to hear the Kathy Kolbe stories. Kolbe is a system based out of Arizona State University brain science data that talks about not how one thinks, nor how one feels, but what one does. It's a motivational assessment that breaks things down into 4 quadrants. How you gather facts, how you deal with change, how you deal with organization, and are you more tangible or concrete in the way you think about things? So I found it extremely powerful in having the concept of, are you in the right seat or wrong seat on the bus? When we're talking about individuals growing into other spaces in the organization, I find Kolbe to be of paramount efficacy.
Is one of the categories on Kolbe quick start? Is there so for example, if you're wondering how in the world would I use this, I've gone through the Kolbe and I have my results here somewhere, but it's really interesting to look at. One of the categories is quick start. Are you high on quick start? Or are you low on quick start? And someone who's high on quick start, they're like ready, fire, aim, let's go, lots of big ideas, but not so great on follow-up. Somebody who's low on quick start, like myself, pretty methodical, do the research before they jump into anything. And it's really important that you match the role with those results. So if you want somebody, you probably don't want, let's say, an estimator who's super high on quick start and low on the details.
I strongly agree with that, Todd.
Yeah. So this is the importance of doing these assessments. I want to talk about what you said about the practicum. I call this the Missouri principle. Missouri is the show me state. So it's one thing to say, you could, like, to use the example you said, you're interviewing for a project manager role. Are you familiar with putting together a 2-week look ahead schedule? And you would say, of course. Now, what does that mean? Are you familiar with it? That could mean I've prepared a 2-week look ahead every day for the last 12 years on 5 projects at a time. Or it could mean, yeah, I think I saw one once that a superintendent prepared. So you can go with the tell me, or you can go with the show me. And I really like the show me. It's like, I love your idea. I've shared the same concept with other clients. Give them a set of plans and have them come up with a material list, a 2-week look ahead schedule, find the discrepancies, show me that you know how to read blueprints, show me that you know how to schedule, show me that you understand job tread. So I think that's fantastic. It's one thing, it's risky to ask somebody, can you do this? It reduces that risk to say, show me that you can do that. So I love that. What's next?
The next step in the process is the walkthrough, where we go in with our team. And I do recommend that we have a team involved and we do a structured scorecard-based interview. One of the handouts that we're offering today is a scorecard to help with those interviews. Any listeners who'd like to bring more structure to their interviews, this structured interview is designed to do that. This is qualitative methodology. I'm sure one of my professors back at university is crying that I even remember these concepts. This is really the core. When I learned from the powerhouses in HR, what they said to me is, Justin, a structured interview with the same questions that gives a clear signal and then a scorecard that reduces bias, this is best practice. Our stage 4, the walkthrough, culminates all of the information that we've gathered from our magnets and filters, from the blueprints, and puts it together into a really structured interview, a systematic interview, if you will. And I use a thing called the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars that I recommend are, do they have the right job skills? Do they have the right computer skills? Do they have the right communication skills? Do they have the right personality? And do they have the right presentation? And then measuring those things in my mind in a scorecard, and then saying to my team, hey team, what were your scores? And now we can have a very substantive conversation about, oh, there's a 4 here and a 5 here, or a 3 here and a 2 here. Much more powerful conversation than I liked them, I didn't like them, I thought they were a good fit, I didn't think they were a good fit. So that's where stage 4 takes all of the data that we've collected up until now, and the rubber truly meets the road.
This seems, while very systematic, some people may be thinking, culture fit is this seems like it's difficult to measure culture fit. It's all, we're talking about presentation and communication and computer skills. Is this like squeezing out the human component? How is this helping to identify the best culture fits?
We've come to find that, with DISC, Myers-Briggs, and the personality assessments out there, there's a generally set 16 cells of personality data. And data scientists, industrial psychologists, some of my favorite people on earth, have really looked into this and identified what satisfies and motivates people. And that's where the assessments that I've chosen, where Preview and Colby really dive in. And that's where my work I'm the most passionate about, is really about what motivates people. That to me is the heartbeat of all of this, is about finding within an assessment or within a tool, how do we motivate people and get into that motivational element? People don't just show up to work to earn money. People show up to work because there's a deeper mission. And when we can harness those two things, money and mission, that's when we're really talking about what work is about. I think that's the missing story that's going on in the world right now. If we can harness that in our process, I think we're going to have a much more solid team and a much more solid workflow.
20 years ago, I remember going through a DISC assessment with a team. I was working at a large company, and we went through the DISC assessment. And there was one thing that stood out to me. If you're this, whatever, I don't remember what it was, but if you're one of these people, if your categories is this, you probably, before you forward an email, you go through and you fix the grammatical errors and you fix all the typos and you make sure it's good before you forward someone else's email on to somebody else. And I remember thinking, that's insane. Why would anybody else do that? And there was a guy named Jay on the team who was like, you mean nobody else does this? I thought everybody cleaned up other people's grammar on every email before they forwarded it. And I remember thinking, that's crazy, but we're so different. So when you talk about motivation, unfortunately, most people project their motivation onto everybody else. And they're like, you just said something of like, what do you mean? People are listening like, this Justin guy said, not everybody's motivated by money. I'm motivated by money. What else could somebody be motivated by? So what are some of those other things that motivate people?
When we talk about it from a psychological perspective, we're talking about intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors. The extrinsic motivational factors are the money ones. The other term we use is mission. So I really believe in what this company is doing. We serve a community that I'm really passionate about. This is a thing my father and my grandfather have done, and I'm carrying a legacy forward that will endure. These are all things that are intrinsic. Todd, what you do is inspirational. I need to be a part of that. That's an intrinsic motivational factor. And when we look at human resources, all the way from the Fortune 500 down to the mom and pop, this is the real role of human resources, is the conversion of people from extrinsic to intrinsic motivational factors, to get our team focused on our mission so we can all for one and one for all. And those teams that are the most duplicitous and the least successful are team members where everyone is singularly money focused. So HR has always been focused all the way from the Fortune 500 down on this conversion from intrinsic to extrinsic. And deeper than that, I would say culture is also about efficiency. People want to show up to work. They want to high five each other. They want to be proud of the work they do. They want to get fair money and they want to go home. There's only a small segment of us called entrepreneurs who enjoy working ridiculous hours for ridiculous rewards. Much of the population has not chosen this. And for us entrepreneurs, it's important to remember that. Ecology is Greek, and the Greek is echo and logia, way of living. We have different ways of living, and human resources helps us elucidate individuals' ways of living. And I use assessments and these tools and my gushy nature to elucidate that from individuals and then empower business owners so they understand the head and the heartbeat of team members, lest I digress.
One of the big takeaways here for those of you listening is not everybody thinks like you do. If you're a business owner, they're not wired like you are. They're not motivated by the same things you are. The people on your team are not all motivated by the same thing. They don't all think the same. And maybe one of the worst things you could do is to have a team of people who are motivated just like you are and think like you are. That would probably be a disaster if you had a bunch of entrepreneurs. What you've done is just created a nest of chaos for the most part. Step 1 is the magnet. Step 2 is the filter. Step 3 is the blueprint. Step 4 is the walkthrough. What's next?
Step 5, final step, is the close. making sure that we have the right clear communication. Something like, hey, applicant, I really appreciated all the time and dedication you've put into this so far. I see a vision for you in the project manager position, and we're really excited to offer you this offer moving forward. Please review your emails and check out your offer. And the offer would be smart. When I say a smart offer, I say precisely that about their personal needs. What do they need economically? What do they need in their family life? What do they need to grow themselves as a professional? So holistically, what does that offer provide? Many times I've gone to an applicant and said, hey, applicant, I don't think numerically we can line up on day one, but if you're willing to work hard, I'm willing to give you more than your original salary expectation based on the fact on this training component or this OSHA certification or this builder trend cert that you need to get. And Todd, what I've heard resoundingly throughout the market is, oh, I'm glad to put in what I need to put in to earn my space. I'm glad to do what I need to do. So I don't think there's an entitlement space there. And our offers are designed to open that up and create the challenge for new hires. So in the offer, we're trying to create a space, a breadcrumb trail, if you will, and saying, hey, here's some low-hanging fruit where you'll be able to succeed. And then here's some big challenges. And here's where business owners can create a powerful offer that doesn't need to be top dollar. I think a lot of people in the market right now think if I don't give someone $100,000 plus, if I don't go top of market, I can't hire top talent. And Todd, people right now, they want hope. With the market the way it is, with geopolitics the way they are, what I'm hearing resoundingly from applicants is I want hope. If you can offer me a job where I'm going to be here a year later, you're going to invest in me, I'm going to invest in you, I'm willing to invest in that. So in our last step to close, it's not just a formal CHRO, Certified Human Resources Officer letter. There's some narrative to it. Hi, thank you for the time. We really care about who you are. Here's the vision that I see and how you'll be able to grow in the organization and what the organization can offer you. That hope. Based on that, now we place the close and the offer. And with that, we've been very successful in 2026 in bringing in people under market salary, using KPIs and performance metrics to grow those team members. So yes, our final step is the close, and I think it really brings it all together in our holistic 5-step process.
Good stuff. You mentioned something I want to touch on. There's another misconception, especially among smaller businesses. When I say smaller businesses, this would be businesses doing under $10 million a year in revenue. There's this misconception that there's no way I can ever attract a good fill in the blank. All of the good ones are already taken. They're working for the big companies. They just assume people working at these big companies would never want to come work for this little company. So they don't even try. And I've seen it, maybe even with some of our mutual clients, when they've gone through this process and created a compelling offer and they've gotten over their mental malware, they've been able to attract some great people who have left much larger companies. And those larger companies, they don't offer the mission. So many times I've heard superintendents saying, I'm tired of traveling, I'm tired of just being a number on a spreadsheet, and I want to work in my hometown, and I want to be part of the community. So what you're offering as a small business is actually very compelling. Even in many cases, more compelling than what a big company offers. So if you're dealing with that mental malware, let me just put that to rest. Your offer is could be much more compelling than you think it is. That's keeping you from even trying. So you don't really know until you put it out there. Let's talk about, what does this look like? You've been working with a lot of construction business owners, many of whom are mutual clients. Can you tell us about some of the results that clients have seen working with you and going through this process?
One of our mutual clients who was glad to share, Andrew over at GDG Custom Home, reached out and said, we need a construction manager and we need somebody quick. I could hear that Andrew, after completing the SYCB process, wanted someone and wanted a data-driven system. We were able, using our assessment tools and an existing network of candidates that I had in the market, to make space for him very quickly. And their new hire, Chrissy, in Andrew's words, is a unicorn. Why that was able to happen praise to G2G was they were able to move quickly through the 5-step process. On the collect side of things, we gathered everything we needed to do. The magnet worked perfectly. And the blueprint assessments were sent out, and Andrew followed up right away and said, hey, applicants, I need you to do this thing for me. If you get this done for me, I'd like to take you out for coffee. That warm, kind of friendly environment where he's like, hey, can you take this assessment for me? When I talked to the new hire, they said to me, when Andrew called me on the phone and said, take the assessment, I was excited right away. So it just feels so good to know that after Andrew saw the value in the assessment, he was able to then have a powerful interview with this individual. And now this person is literally taking weight off of Andrew's plate, is in the construction management software as of today. My admin team is in there making sure the KPIs are going, Todd, and we're seeing boxes check off, which makes me giddy in a weird kind of way. So very excited that Andrew has been able to do that. But I think one of the other things that we did there is we assessed internally. So we knew what already existed within the G2G ecology and brought in another team member that had similar personality, had similar intellect, but different motivations. So that this team member wouldn't be waltzing on toes with the other team members, would be motivated to do the different things, particularly the data stuff nobody loves to do. So this is a way that we can bring additive skills that are also going to be, beneficial for everybody. So Andrew and G2G, praise to them, really pleased they were able to find their construction manager and are able to move forward as fluidly as they are.
They're a great team. I like Andrew. He went through our SYCB program and is now in our CEO Alliance, and they are great implementers. They just get stuff done. There's an old saying in sales, time kills deals. Does that also apply in recruiting?
It really does, particularly with applicants in the market as we see them right now. The market, particularly summer market 26, is a very duplicitous market. It's not that there aren't great applicants out there, but they're moving very quickly. I had a situation at the beginning of the year where I had an owner named Jeremy, and Jeremy had become the bottleneck in his own company. He was doing all the things. He was estimating, he was doing sales. I mean, there were places where he was literally working and living from the office. Like, we've all been there, but it was like, I was almost going to make a 1-bedroom in the back of the office. And we were able to find him a new estimator, and that estimator has now given him the ability to now go back home. What stood out to me on this hire was that his wife reached out and was like, I get to see my husband again. Thank you. His office manager, who's his sister-in-law, was like, thank you. We get him back. We get Jeremy back. So for all of you guys out there who are working the 70 hours a week, know there's hope. Know there's people out there that want to do the things that you don't like to do and get meaningful amount of joy out of it. And that for less dollars per hour than you'd imagine, happiness could be yours. That was Jeremy's experience. And one of the things this year, Todd, I'm the most proud of in getting to know about Jeremy, seeing how bogged down he was, watching him get rid of this head trash, and now seeing him live the life he's wanted to live for 10 years. I mean, it gives me all the reasons of why I do what I do. So yeah, big successes with Andrew and with Jeremy.
I don't know Jeremy, but I can attest that Andrew is incredibly intelligent. If he were listening to this, I would say he's incredibly attractive, resourceful, inspirational, just a fantastic guy. While that's true, those qualities are not what made him successful, right? What they did was they took the first step. I mean, if we wanted to summarize my notes here, step 1, recognize your head trash that's holding you back. Is it true? Is it speculation? Is it mental malware? You got to recognize that stuff. You can't defeat what you don't define. So if your biggest enemy is truly the head trash and the mental malware, you need to define that. Take a good hard look in the mirror and then follow a process. And you have 2 options for this. Actually, you have 3 options. Option 1 is do nothing. Just keep struggling through it, work harder, work more hours, take pictures of your kids to give to your wife so they can remember what you look like while you just work more hours, and they're probably get hair plugs because you're losing your hair, just buy bigger pants because the stress and the cortisol makes you fat. That's option one. And just work harder, do nothing. Option two is you could DIY this stuff. And you could be like, well, I'm going to come up with a magnet. I could piece together this kind of system that Justin's been talking about and try to DIY it, which is what a lot of contractors do. Or option three is you just find a proven system that gets you the results you want and you go do what you're good at, what makes you money. Those are the options you have. If you're stressed and strained and you know you need to hire somebody or feel like you do, those are your three options. It's that simple. Or option four, maybe your best option is just to shut the whole thing down and go to work for somebody else. And that's true for some people. That is the best scenario for some people. So it's really that simple. Do something. Take some action. Do something different, because continuing to do the same thing and expecting results it's the definition of insanity. All right, so you've got some resources to share with our audience. What you got, Justin?
The Hire Right System Scorecard is a gift for everyone listening today. Brings some systematic methodology into a hiring process. Anybody that's going through a hire right now and wants a systematic way to kind of see where we stand, this is a great place to kind of look at your system, see what's working, see what's not working. We've given kind of a roadmap on kind of how we built the early stages of what we've built in our own system. So for anyone who's looking to DIY it, this is a great place to start and look at how you could DIY it. If one was to identify, hey, I've tried to DIY this and it isn't working, gives you kind of the structural methodology to work with a firm and what working with a firm might look like. And so the idea here is to kind of be a groundwork and a safe place for Construction Leading Edge podcast listeners to have step one in systematizing their recruitment process. The same way that we can systematize our construction business, I think it's important that we systematize our recruitment process. So as a gift to all the listeners today, I wanted to provide that first effort to systematize your business.
Go to the show notes. You'll find a link to the Hire Right Hiring System Scorecard and Checklist, or you can just go to constructionleadingedge.com/hiring. That will take you right to that resource. Download the resource, take some action, go through it. Justin, for people who are like, you know what, I just need to hire Justin. I don't need a scorecard. I need the gold pass, go straight to the front of the line. I need some help. I need the proven system. What's the next step if people want to contact you?
Well, please reach out to me at my webpage, www.jltalentsolutions.com, or my email address, justin@jltalentsolutions.com. I'd be honored to help you first do an initial investigation on your profile and on your team, identify a free job profile for your job description, and go from there.
If you're thinking about growing your business, this is one of the first moves that you need to make. There's no downside. It's only going to help you. So highly encourage you to get in touch with Justin, either get your grubby little hands on the hiring system scorecard by clicking the link in the show notes, or just contact Justin directly. Make sure you tell him that you heard his interview on this podcast. I could vouch for Justin. We've had mutual clients who've been working with Justin for years now, and Justin knows his stuff. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for being here on the podcast, and keep up the great work.
Todd, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to share something that we're so passionate about in a mutual space where we can help our audience grow significantly. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Hey, before you hit stop and skip on to the next episode, let me ask you something. If you're building custom homes or big renovations and you're starting jobs before scope, subs, and selections are completely dialed in, how long can you keep scaling like that before something cracks? That's exactly what we'll unpack on your free business evaluation call. In about 45 minutes, my team will help you do a few things. Grade your current handoff from office to field, put some real numbers to the hidden profit bleeds that could be in your business. There could be hidden profits in your business. Sketch out what a repeatable operating system would look like in your business from sales to pre-construction through completion. And if it looks like we can help, we'll book a follow-up call to talk about the right implementation program for you. If it's not, you'll still leave with clarity and next steps. We will leave you better than we found you. So to book your call and be sure that you qualify for that call, go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or click the show notes. There's a link in the show notes, and book your business evaluation call.